Hey grade 7, welcome to another edition of Mr. V Teaches Math. And today what we're going to do is move on in our unit on 3D geometry, and we're going to move on to something called nets of polyhedra. So our goal for today is to be able to draw a net of a three-dimensional shape and to be able to recognize a three-dimensional shape from its net. I think another benefit of understanding nets is the ability to calculate surface area, which we'll get into tomorrow. Okay. Now, we have, get rid of this. We've been looking at things like prisms, three-dimensional shapes that we have been just thinking about faces and edges and vertices and whatnot. One of the things that we're going to be able to do is take one of those three-dimensional shapes, and I'm just going to take a cube, and we're going to look at it like this. And so this is a cube. Now, what a net is if you take all of those sides and you flatten it out, and I'll just try and back up. I'll just extend over here and see where I'm working. So a cube is like a flattened version of a three-dimensional shape. So if you break apart all of the, or some of the edges anyway, and you flatten it out, then this is what's called a net. And you can see that this cube has got 6 sides. We're not really worried about these gray tabs. That's just used to glue stuff in. But when you fold it all back up, you fold this net all back up, then what you get is a cube. Okay? But we know that this cube has 6 sides, and so it's going to have 6 squares. This is because it's a cube. And this is an actual net of a polygon, or a polyhedron rather. Now, a couple of things about drawing nets. I've given you a couple of examples, and so this net right here, if we look, it's got 2 congruent bases, and it's got 3 rectangles that are going to join these shapes, and so this is a net of a triangular prism. This one, the bases are squares, and so we're going to say this one is a square prism. Okay, so these are just a couple of really simple examples of nets. There are slightly more challenging ones in the book on page 274 and 275, which we'll get to in a little bit when you get to work on the project, or work on the practice rather. Now, a couple of notes about nets. First of all, when you're drawing them, always, I can't stress that enough, always use a ruler, even on tests. If it's not done correctly, if it's not done with a ruler, then it's wrong. Okay? And you notice that there, on these drawings here, there are dotted lines. Okay? So you put dotted lines where you would make folds. So if I were to cut this out, I know that I can fold along these dotted lines to fold it together to make my net. And so if I go back to my 3D, my actual net, the dotted lines on the shape would go in these spots. Okay, and that's where I would put the stuff, and that's where I would make my folds. Okay. Lastly, please double check to ensure that it actually makes the net correctly. Every once in a while, I will get a net that looks something like this. And someone will say, this is the net of a square prism. And I tell them to cut it out on the paper and try and fold it to make sure that it actually has 6 sides that fold properly. And when you do, it does not fold properly. This is not a correct net. Okay? It's got to fold. Once you cut it out, it's got to be able to fold properly into that shape. Okay? The last thing you'll see is you'll have to make nets of prisms, or of pyramids as well. And so let's say, for example, that we're working with something like this. And this is going to be, I'm going to notice a couple things in just I'm going to try that one again because I'm off. So 2, and then 2, and 2. We'll still be able to notice a few things that are off about this one that I'm making, and you'll be able to comment on it when you see me tomorrow. Now, this is a hexagon. That's the polygon that this is. And we are going to add in our triangles. Remember that pyramids are made with triangles. Now you notice that I am using a ruler, so that's good on tests and quizzes or even on a specific math video. I think it's important to use the ruler to make things look neater. It's just the kind of person that I am. So this is a hexagonal pyramid. Remember that pyramids only have the one base and then all the other sides are joined up with triangles. You'll also notice that along here, the hexagon itself should have had all dotted lines. So your base is the one that's going to have all the dotted lines, and then the solid lines are going to be the triangles that form it. Okay, and so that's a little bit about nets. The reason we're doing nets, as I said earlier, it's going to lead us into surface area, which is a fairly important component of this unit. So be ready for that to come.